welcome to another episode of Rich Talks BS. So we're gonna start out with the MLB and with the new rule that went into effect on this past Monday, and that's the use of foreign substance for pitchers to enhance grip. Um, so now there's no use of a foreign substance to enhance the grip, which is going to be, hard and dry and cold climate games compared to hot and humid games where at least they can use, the sweat off their own body to get grip on the ball, to make better pitches, to throw the ball harder, to just have more control over the ball. And so it's a good rule in a way, and in a way it's just a rule that pitchers are not happy about. And the consequence, or the the violation of use of a foreign substance to enhance grip is going to be an ejection and a 10-game suspension if they're caught. And so far, pitchers have been called out for using grip. DeGrom was called out. Max Scherzer was called out on Tuesday night 3 times by Joe Girardi, and it seemed like 3 times, and it just turned into frustration and just words being exchanged back and forth and gestures towards each other, to the point to where Joe Girardi came out of the dugout and was calling out Max Scherzer and eventually got ejected from the game. That's a rule, like I said, that went into effect on this past Monday, and we'll see, how far or how many times this actually happens from a general manager wanting to call out a pitcher or wanting the umpires to check the pitcher. And I'm pretty sure someone might get caught. It's just depending on who and when and where. It's a very interesting rule, and some couple of pitchers have called out the rule as unfair or just had something bad to say about it. But it is what it is. It's the MLB, so they're gonna do what they can to try to make the game, I guess, fair. If you want to call it that. So I'm gonna get into the home run leaders because All-Star Week is around the corner, and home run leaders right now, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. tied for leading the league with 23. He also has 60 RBIs, which leads the league also. Shohei Ohtani tied with him at 23, Showtime Ohtani, and then Fernando Tatis Jr. Right behind them with 22. And going back to DeGrom, who is looking like the best pitcher, in the league, who's looking like who's a pitcher looking like having the best season ever. And he's been pitching really good. He's been having some soreness here and there, but he's still doing his thing. He has 30 consecutive innings without a run, and his ERA is a 0.50, which is really, really good. And the way he's been pitching is crazy, to the point to where his team doesn't even have to score many runs because they trust him so much that he's going to do what he has to do. He's going to do his job and stop the other team from scoring. So whether it's tying the game or having an eventual comeback, that's a lot of trust for a team to have in one pitcher, which is pretty good, and just really crazy that he's pitching as good as he's pitching, which most likely is going to be the best season by a pitcher ever. So we're gonna get into the power rankings also. Number one, Dodgers, who won 10 out of 12 um, against teams that were below 500. And, that includes the Pirates, the Rangers, the Phillies, and Diamondbacks. Um, Schedule is going to start to get tougher with teams coming up who are above 500. And, that's with the Padres, the Cubs, and the Giants, which all three teams have been, playing really good. They're doing what they need to do to win, and they look good. These are teams that are, that you possibly are going to meet, most likely going to meet in the playoffs. With the road to the World Series. They also have the best run differential in the NL West with a plus 103. Number two is the Astros, who only played one team above 500, and they got swept. And that was against the White Sox, who they swept. They swept the White Sox 4-0, outscored them 27-8, and then now they're predicted to be in first place by the end of June. Number three are the Giants, and the thing with the Giants is their hitting. Their hitting is really good. Their pitching is coming along. Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, who's had some great numbers in the last few games. Last couple of weeks, they've been having some really good numbers. They've been hitting the ball really great. It's kind of hard to catch a Giants game, especially because they're way on the West Coast. So if you're from the West Coast, you have a better chance of catching the game like that compared to those who's on the East Coast or, kind of like in the Midwest. And unless, the Giants are playing on that side of, of the country. But it's a little hard to catch those Giants games because they're on so late. But, if you ever get a chance, watch the Giants, catch a Giants game. Like I said, their hitting is really good. Their pitching is coming along. And they're looking like a team that could be World Series bound. Number four, the A's. They lost their first World Series of the year. And that was against the Yankees. They lost 2 out of 3 against them. Their 1911 road record is second best in the majors, behind the Red Sox, who are 23-12 on the road. Actually, they're 24-12 on the road. They just had a good win on Tuesday night, which went to the 11th against the Rays, and that was a 9-5 game, which was a really good game. But going back to the A's, they're looking good. They're looking like a team that could, that could make a good little run into the playoffs, depending on what road they have to take to get to the World Series. Number 5 is the White Sox. Even with that sweep by the Astros, them and the Indians still lead their division as the only two teams with a winning record, and that's in the AL Central. White Sox are looking really good. They came across this little bump in the road, which it shouldn't last long. With the sweep and then also losing again to the Pirates on Tuesday night, and it should be getting better. It should be getting better for them. I don't expect to see them, in a slump for a long time. This is a very small slump. Like I said, a very small bump in the road. They're going to catch, they're going to catch ground again. They're going to get back to where they need to get, and they're going to do what they need to do. And hopefully it leads them into, a pretty good run in the playoffs. Now going on to the NBA news. Stan Van Gundy, one and done in New Orleans. He's been let go. Wizards and Scott Brooks couldn't come to an agreement, so couldn't come to agreement on a contract extension. So their agreement was to part ways, and his deal was done after the playoffs. After that loss in the playoffs, his deal was already done. So no agreement on, an extension or re-signing or anything like that. So they parted ways. So Scott Brooks is out in the market. The Wizards are trying to find a new head coach, and we'll see which road they take. They've had a couple of interviews already, so it's going to be interesting to see which way they go, who they go after, and who they can actually land. Another one was Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle not returning to the Mavs. He stepped down. Their GM also stepped down. So now the Mavs are stuck with no GM and no head coach. They just hired Dirk as an advisor to help with hiring the GM and the head coach. So we're gonna see how that goes. Dirk, of course, legendary Mavs star, one greatest Mavs player ever, and one of the greats in the NBA. So having him, up there in the office to help with the decision making on finding the GM and trying to find a head coach is really good pickup. That was a really good on the Mavs part, really good on Mark Cuban's part to allow that to happen, which is not surprising because of the relationship he has with the Mavs. Celtics trade Kemba Walker to Oklahoma City. It was kind of surprising in a way, but not. It was kind of hard to keep Kemba on the court. Kind of keep trying to keep him healthy. When he was healthy, he did what he could do, but he just couldn't. He just couldn't fit with that offense. He didn't fit with that offense. He couldn't fit in. So with him trying to do what he could and try to combine that with what this Celtics team was trying to do and what this Celtics team was doing, especially when Jaylen Brown was healthy, it just didn't work out. So him and the first round pick of the 2021 draft that's coming up are going over to OKC. You got Al Horford coming back to the Celtics along with another player and a future draft pick. So we're gonna see how that goes and see if they're gonna pick up anyone in this draft or try to pick someone else in free agency to make up for that position that with the Celtics as a point guard. So the playoffs, the semifinals for the East and the West were really good. Other than the Suns sweeping the Nuggets on a bogus call against Jokic, the rest of the games were really good. They, going to Game 7 or Game 6, Clippers beating the Jazz in 6. Which looked like Mike Conley was not ready to come back. They kind of forced that one, rushed that one, rushed Mike Conley to come back. Conley himself most likely rushed himself to come back, and they just weren't ready to go against this Clippers team, which were led by Paul George and also by Terrence Mann, who played a really good Game 6. It's just the thing of, can they be consistent with it? Like I said before with Giannis too, Bucks beating the Nets in 7. Like I said, Giannis has something to prove. He has that chip on his shoulder, being the 1 seed for 2 years in a row and then failing. Like I said, he had to show what he had. He had to show that he can do it, that he can actually lead this Bucks team past the second round into the Eastern Conference Finals and a possible Finals appearance. He showed that. Again, the Nets were not going to win it with just 2. They needed all 3, and it was a great Game 7. This Game 7 was great, was very entertaining, and just came down to the last shot, which KD missed. But it was a great game. Giannis, did what he had to do. His supporting cast did what they had to do to help lead this team into the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, the other Game 7 with the Sixers and the Hawks, it was kind of disappointing to see how the Sixers broke down against this Hawks team. like I said before, I had the Hawks winning anyway. I had them winning in 6. They won in 7. Trae Young is unbelievable. Like, he's just that great of a leader. He's that general. Like I said before, I've said it before in the past, and I'm gonna keep saying it. He's a great general. He's a great leader. This is a leader that this Hawks team has been looking for a long time. You know, when Trey's playing his game and he's putting up the numbers he's always putting up, they're gonna win the game, especially with the people around him. You know, with Capella and Collins and Kruger and Gallinari and Bogdanovich. You know, just to name a few. You know, they've been playing really great ball. You know, coming off the bench, starting. You know, this team is great. This team is built to win. You know, they have players who have that drive to keep pushing and keep pushing until until they can get the win. Even in this game 7, when Trey was having a tough time to get started, or a tough time during the game up until the fourth quarter, he had somebody to help him. He had somebody to step up and to help win this game, which was Kruger. And both of them in the fourth quarter together helped this Hawks team to get past this breakdown of a Sixers team. Embiid wasn't enough by himself, and then of course with Ben Simmons playing the way he's been playing, great defensive player, of course, but to struggle like he did at the free throw line, to struggle from the field, like I've said it before in the past, he has to take more shots, but it has to be closer to the goal. It has to be in the paint. But his free throw shooting was horrible, worse in the playoffs, worse in postseason, one of the worst in postseason history. And the way he just broke down, and then not even attempting a field goal in the fourth quarter in a game 7 when it was clutch time, when it was a time to, put your team in a position to win and advance into the playoffs. So we're going to see what kind of plans the Sixers team and Doc Rivers has for Ben Simmons in the offseason. I've heard some people, saying that, he needs to switch hands. He can shoot the ball with both hands. He shoots it with his left. Maybe he needs to switch over to his right. Maybe he'll have a better chance or a higher percentage shooting the ball with his right, and a higher free throw percentage with his right also. Or it's just time to put him in a different role. Just getting him in a position to where he's closer to the rim. He can actually be a forward and play the forward role, because it just seems like he's a better fit to be a forward instead of a guard. And it's just it was hard to see this great of a player, this all-star, to play the way he played and to not have a good postseason, not have a good playoffs, not have a good series, especially against this Hawks team. It was more was expected, but it just broke down. So with the Hawks and Bucks playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, that's going to be a great series. Game 1 on Wednesday night, and that game is going to be a good game 1. So we can see what each team has to offer, what each team has planned for the other, and how are they going to stop Giannis, or how are they going to put this team in a place to where they can't find a rhythm or they struggle. Same thing with this Hawks team. Can they actually stop Trae Young from getting his numbers, and I guess let his teammates try to win the game, which is going to be hard to do also. But this Bucks team is great on defense. This Hawks team is great on defense. They've been playing a really good game. They've been playing really good this postseason. And I can see the Hawks making it to the finals. I can see the Hawks beating this Bucks team. But if Giannis can't score, if Giannis can't put up numbers, can Middleton show up? Will Middleton show up? Will Drew Holiday show up? Can he show up? It's going to be difficult for both teams to actually come out on top and to advance to the finals, but it's also going to be very entertaining to see. So we're going to see how that goes. I got the Hawks in 7. And then on Tuesday night, we just had game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Clippers and the Suns. And that game there was very, very entertaining. A lot of replays right there in the fourth quarter, towards the end of the fourth quarter, which seemed like the Clippers were always asking for a replay. It either went their way, it seemed like most of the time it went their way, but still was not enough to beat this Suns team in Phoenix. For it to be 103-102 with 0.9 seconds left in the game, and Suns getting the ball after a replay on the ball going out of bounds, which still stuck with the Suns, and it was Suns ball. You had Jay Crowder in the corner. You had Boogie in front of him. Big, tall, long arms in front of him, but he was just in the wrong place, wrong position, because Crowder threw the ball in with the alley-oop inbound and found Ayton cutting to the rim, set up by a screen by Devin Booker, who, by the way, did not have that good of a game, but had a good enough game to help this team beat the Clippers and to go up 2-0. But with the alley-oop inbound pass to Ayton, and Ayton with the dunk, leaving 0.7 seconds left on the clock, was an incredible play. They got that free timeout because of the replay, and which I think was a bad decision on the Clippers, because with them trying to have the refs check the replay on who was actually out, who the ball was actually out on, that gave the Suns team a chance to set up a play, and that was the play that they set up. It was going to be hard to try to catch and shoot. That was the perfect play. Crowder put the ball in the perfect place, and Ayton with the dunk. That was just an incredible ending to an incredible game. Very entertaining, very exciting. This series is going to be exciting. It's going to be very hard for this Clippers team to win. You had Paul George with 26 points, but he was 1 for 8 from the 3-point line and 50% from free throws, and missed 2 free throws. And that was with less than 10 seconds left in the game, and he missed 2 important free throws, which could have had them up, and it just didn't happen like that. It could have had them up, by 3, but instead they were up by 1. Missed the second one. Suns get the ball and call a timeout, and and then that's what happens from there. With the replays and stuff like that. Cameron Payne led all scorers tonight, the backup to Chris Paul, and he plays great anyway. He's a great player. He's a great player coming off the bench. He's going to help this team, whether he's coming off the bench or whether he's starting. He had 29 points, 9 assists, 37 minutes, and 0 turnovers. And this Clippers team is a great defense. They have great defense, but for him to play 37 minutes and get no turnovers, that just shows that this Clippers was slacking on the defensive end when guarding Cameron Payne. Ayton with 24 points, 14 rebounds. He was 12 for 15 from the field, 80%. So as a team, the Clippers was 45% from the field, while the Suns were 50% from the field. 3-point percentage, Clippers was 38.2, while the Suns were 23.1. And with the Suns not shooting the ball well from 3-point range, it didn't matter. They, with Devin Booker and Ayton and Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, and Jay Crowder and a few more players that just stepped up and did what they had to do and played their role exceptional, to keep this Suns team ahead of the Clippers on 2-0 in the series. From free throw percentage was Clippers at 75% and the Suns at 88.9. And then the points in the paint. Like I said, it didn't matter that the Suns didn't really shoot well from the 3-point line because they outscored the Clippers in the paint 60-30. And that's where the points came from. That's where, that's where the Clippers were struggling, especially trying to keep this high powered Suns team from scoring. So we've got we've got Chris Paul possibly coming back for game 3, who most likely I believe should be coming back for game 3. And with him coming back for game 3, it's just going to make this Suns team even better. Of course, we know that. And if there's no Kawhi, this Suns team is going to sweep this Clippers team. I see the Suns sweeping the Clippers. Don't be surprised if the Suns sweep the Clippers, because this Suns team, without Chris Paul and with Devin Booker playing the way he played, like I said, he had a bad game, but it wasn't that bad. He had 20 points, but with what he can do on the court and getting to the free throw line and just, being a provider for his team is good enough. Is above good enough to keep his team ahead and keep his team on top. And that's what happened. And we're still sitting here 2-0. And then when you add Chris Paul to the mix, it's just going to be even worse. So that's what I see with this Suns team. Even when their stars can't play or are not playing well, somebody else is going to step up, and somebody else is going to, be a partner to Ayton, because Ayton is going to do what he can do, because there's not really a big that can really stop Ayton. Ayton is going to do what he wants. He's going to play the way he wants to play. He's going to do what he wants to do. And it's just going to be hard for teams to stop that. Especially with the 1-5 screen, it's just their game, and they're going to kill it every time. The Clippers don't really have anybody like that. Like I've said this before too about the Clippers. They have good players. They have great players in Kawhi and PG, playoff P, if you still want to be playoff P. But, with Kawhi and Paul George, they're really good players, but they're not leaders. You don't see them, getting their team back into play, or, just pep talking their team, or trying to coach their players, their teammates, into being in the right place, or picking them back up to play better, or to keep doing what they're doing, or to keep trying to shoot if they're having a scoring slump. But the Suns team does. It's the same thing with the Hawks. If Trey's down, or if he's not playing that good, but he's doing enough to produce and to be productive with his team or for his team, then they're gonna win. So I can see this Hawks Suns finals, and that'll be a really good finals. Very exciting, very entertaining, and especially with Booker versus Trey. I would love to see a Booker versus Trey matchup. That'll be really good basketball, really good NBA Finals basketball. So I can't wait to see that. Hopefully that's what we get to see. Also on Tuesday night before game 2 was the draft lottery, NBA draft lottery. So the picks fell, and Detroit got the number 1 overall pick, followed by Houston at 2, Cleveland at 3, Toronto at 4, Orlando at 5, OKC at 6, Golden State at 7. And Golden State is going to have picks number 7 and 14. And, that's going to be really good to see. Orlando has the 8 pick also. Sacramento at 9. New Orleans at 10. And, it's going to be a very good draft. Of course, you got Cade, from Oklahoma State, who pretty much is the greatest player in college. Overall player, 3-level scorer, great defense, most likely going to Detroit. He said it before that, whoever drops, he's only going to go visit one team, and that's the team that has the number one pick, which is going to be Detroit. So, we all can see, K going to Detroit, and now be a really good pick because they have a really young team. They have two good, all rookie players, and it's going to be great basketball for Detroit. They're going to have great building blocks, and expect to see this Detroit Pistons team make some moves in the offseason also, and try to make themselves relevant in the East. Going into college football, also, speaking of college, while we're into the draft, the college football playoff committee are starting to look like they're going to move forward with this 12-team playoff. From 4 teams to 12, I think 12 is too much. 8 would have been enough. 4 made it competitive. 4 was controversial. There was controversy in the 4 because you had teams who you think should have been in the 4 over teams who should not have been in the 4. There's always snubs. Now it looks like we're going to have 12 teams in the playoff, and that's going to make things even more interesting because there's no limit on how many teams can come out of a conference also. So that looks like it's going forward too, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Kind of expect it to not be this season or next season. But we'll see how that works out. It could be possible to see it next season. This season, we're still going to have the 4. Next season could be possible that we could see the 12. But if not, it will be, that season after. So that's going to be very interesting to see, especially to see what kind of teams can get into the 12 and who's going to be left out of the 12. I know it's the breakdown of who's actually getting in like the top 6 seeds, how that's gonna work, or the top 5 seeds. But we will see the top 4 seeds get the first round bye, while everyone else is gonna have to fight and try to get to that next round. So that's gonna be very interesting to see. I can't wait to see it in the play and how it's all gonna work out. Well, that's all the BS I have for this episode. Until next time.